everyone, and welcome to Yelling from the Couch. I'm Brent Humphreys, and this week I have with me a co-host, Gene's Got Picks Twitter personality at
Hey,
Legene53. How you doing, Gene?
thank you for having me. It's pretty awesome to talk about sports today, huh?
Oh yeah, it's a good day to talk about sports, of course. I'd like to start off every week with the best thing I saw from the last week and the worst thing I saw from the last week. So I'll go ahead and start. The best thing I saw is going to be uh, it's after it's going to sound a little funny because my worst thing is like the most recent thing. So the best thing I saw for myself personally was the Reds go out to Los Angeles and they take 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers and look
Yeah, that
really
was
good. Take first place back after Milwaukee gets swept by Atlanta, and we're riding that high. I mean, it's looking pretty good.
awesome.
But I'll let you do your best of the week, and then I'll go with my worst. So if you would like to, go ahead and give me your best of the week, Gene.
My my best of the week is hearing the Joe Burrow news about him being able to walk. I'm sure a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans were holding their breath hearing you know the news about him being carted off the field. Um,
Absolutely.
But I will my best is a mix of a little bit of worry still, only because I worry if Joe Bur- Joe Burrow has had injury problems in the past.
Yes.
So with that being said, I think the Bengals should look into spending maybe a premium of getting a backup quarterback. Because I mean, if you look at the depth chart, Jake
Yeah.
Browning and Trevor Siemian.
Yep.
I mean, this Bengals team is ready for a Super Bowl now. If
Yes.
if Joe Burrow can't be available for a certain week, I don't know if Jake Browning is going to get the job done. But it's still great news hearing he's able to walk without a limp, no crutches or anything like that. So that's my best thing from last week to hear.
Yeah. And I agree with that was going to be my best thing, but because last week my worst thing I recorded right after he had went down, and there was an uncertainty of what was going on, whether it was a his calf or Achilles, or if he was just
Yeah, that
cramping.
would have been man, that would have hurt.
Yes, and like you said, they need to go out and they need to get somebody else. Like I seen Teddy Bridgewater was available. Teddy,
Yeah,
two glove Teddy. I mean, I'll take him over the other two guys. He's got the
yeah,
experience. He's decent. Uh, maybe be a decent backup just in case something would happen. Because I mean, you can't really trust Trevor Simeon or Jake Browning or Drew Plitt or whoever they signed, off the streets to lead this team to a Super Bowl if something happens to Burrow or get him by a couple of weeks. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, that was probably a close runner up on my best too. So we'll switch over in now to the worst thing I saw from last week, and like I said, it's going to kind of overtake my best because it is also the Reds dropping 3 or 4 to Chicago, and not just dropping 3 or 4 to Chicago, getting beat down, allowing
Yeah.
I forget how many runs. I lost count. At 2 games, they give up 36 runs. They have their backup catcher in there pitching for 2 innings because why not? Ben Lively gives up 13 runs on Tuesday, and at that point, David Bell's like, just go ahead, get it out of your system. Just we're not winning this. We're not going to waste our arms out here. So yeah, that was my worst of the week because you had that all that momentum, and now you let the Cubs right back in it, and now they're 2 games behind you, and Milwaukee takes back over first place. It's just frustrating to see. Uh,
Yeah,
you
that would definitely be frustrating seeing not only a team that's, you're basically competing with for playoff spots, but for them to basically embarrass you, putting up at like you said, the past two games, 36 runs, like that is
yeah,
video game numbers. Like you don't hear
yeah.
about that every day. So um
It
that was
and you
definitely. Probably.
And if it was the Atlanta Braves doing that, I understand. But I mean, it's the Cubs. I mean,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
know,
If the Braves, if you lose to the Braves, hey, that's a contending World Series team. Like they have a great roster.
yes,
Chicago Cubs, I mean, they are good in their own way, but they are. I
right.
wouldn't necessarily say I'm nervous about them in the play. Seeing them in the playoffs.
Right. I mean, they got decent players, decent lineup, and that's it. It's decent. It's not the Braves where the Braves can just put them runs on like nothing. But you made the
Yeah.
Cubs look like the Braves those games, and it's just come on now. Uh,
Is it on me for the worst that I saw?
yes,
We're kind of on the same route. The worst thing I saw was the activity for the Reds on the trade deadline. I truly felt like they needed that one veteran pitcher that may been a 1 year left on his contract for something that would be a cheap option to trade for. Um,
yes,
but seeing them not go for that, knowing that this is kind of one of the magical years that the Reds are having with all this young talent that they have. That
yeah.
one veteran pitcher probably would have just put you over the top. And it was pretty disappointing seeing them not at least go for somebody like Lance Lynn, who ended up going to the Dodgers. I feel like that could have been a very, at least serviceable guy to have on your team for this final stretch.
Absolutely, man. They made one deal. They got Sam Mole from the A's, and that's a bullpen help. But you needed that starter, and the day of the trade deadline, that night is when Ben Lively goes out and gives up 13 runs as a starter. It's like, okay, tell us something right there that we should have went out and got a starting pitcher.
Yeah, at least a guy that's on his way out from his current team that has one. I understand you don't want to give a lot of your farm system away. I'm not too familiar with the Reds farm, who would be a quality player to send out, but you got to do something. Definitely
Yep,
with the roster that you have built right now that's having the success this season. You got to make that final push.
yep, because they've got the lineup that can do it. They've got a few starting pitchers. I know. I guess they're counting on when Hunter Green comes back and Nick Lodolo, but at the same
Hmm.
time, they've been hurt all year. You
Yeah, I was
don't
about
really
to
know
say.
what to expect when they come back.
What's the update for Nick Lodolo? Because I haven't really heard any news on is he coming back in later in August or is he going to be here for the playoffs? Like what? I haven't really
So
heard much about him.
So the last update that I heard, it originally he was supposed to come back in August, and now I think they pushed that back to early September for him.
Mm,
And Hunter Green, they're targeting around August 20th for him to come back. But
okay, Hunter.
like I said, yeah, these guys are injured. You can't really bank on them to come in and who knows, they come out there and something happens the first pitch they throw, and there you are again, same situation. Do you really
Okay,
want to
I
try
have.
out Weaver every 5 days? I mean,
Yeah, I was about to ask. I have a is would because I'm not necessarily a Reds fan. I'm a Rangers fan, but I'm a
yeah.
baseball up. Do the Reds really have confidence in guys like Graham Ashcraft, who you're throwing out today? Like, do we have confidence in these guys that they can at least give us 5, 6 innings day in, day out? Or are we always holding our breath with these guys, hoping that we're getting a bunch of runs? Because that is what the Reds have been known for. If our pitcher's going to give up 5, guess what? We're going to put 10 runs on you now because you kind of need that run support.
So Graham Ashcraft, he started off really slow. He gave up a lot of runs early on in the season, but his last 5 or 6 starts, he has picked it up to the level he was last year, and he was probably the best pitcher in the rotation last year because he stayed healthy. He pitched the whole year. So he's done good the last few games, but like last night, here's a stat: Luke Weaver was a crazy stat before his last where like the last 10 starts he had, the Reds were 9-1, and he had like an 11 something ERA. It was like the highest ERA for a pitcher with the team with that record ever or something like that. And it was like, whenever he pitches, they're like, okay, we got to get out there and we got to score a bunch of runs. But then, like, when Andrew Abbott comes out and pitches, it's like, well, maybe 2 or 3 will get it because we know that he'll hold it down. But yeah, they needed some starting help, and they didn't go out and get it, and I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, I definitely think that I still think the offense can give y'all that magical run regardless who you do throw out because that's kind of how it's been all year anyway. Regardless who
Yeah,
you thrown out, the offense has produced. So, it does suck to not see your front office make that final push for you. But you
yes,
do know that you can score with the best of them. Like you said, you saw if you had to see the Braves, I'm not necessarily gonna jump off the mountain and say that the Reds could beat the Braves in a series if they had to see them. But
no,
I would say that they could score with them. Like it's not like the Reds will just lay down for anybody. In fact, speaking of my Rangers, I feel like we kind of helped y'all turn around that season because when we see y'all at Great American, y'all swept us, and I
yeah,
was worried because I didn't necessarily know much about this Reds team, and I was thinking of from maybe past years, like the Reds aren't the most haven't won the most had the most winning seasons in the past, but this year's completely different Reds team.
oh yeah,
You can see the young guys has lit a fire throughout the
oh,
clubhouse, and they're just ready to go.
and the thing with that Rangers series, that was in at the end of April, I believe, and the
Hmm.
Rangers had I believe, a 5-run lead one game, a 6-run lead one game, and the Reds
Yeah,
came back in like the 8th and the ninth inning to score all these runs. And
yeah,
this was
that's y'all.
before Matt McClain was called up. This was before Ellie was called up. So this was, before the youth movement happened. And then when that youth movement happened, it was like a shot in the arm for the club. Will
Yeah,
Benson got sent down, and he was tearing it up in the minors, and he like had like a 50 something average when he left. And now he's come back, and he's one of my favorite players to watch. He plays with passion, and like he hit that walk off home run against the Dodgers, and it's like, okay, this guy's
yeah,
bringing something now.
that was pretty nice to beat to win to take a series from the Dodgers shows something because the Dodgers may not have also like the greatest pitching, but they are also a team that is known for all right, if our pitcher give up 5, we're about to score 10 because we know what we need to do.
Right. Unless Clayton Kershaw's out there pitching, and he's injured right now, so we didn't have to see him.
Yeah,
But yeah, and another thing, Jonathan India, he was sent to the injured list right before the trade deadline, and rumors were swirling all week that the Reds may deal Jonathan India for a starting pitcher. But he was injured, and I guess that kind of fell off the table. I was kind of 50-50 on that. I like India. I thought a couple years ago, his rookie year, he was the best player on the team because he give us something to look to be excited about. This
yeah,
rookie guy.
yeah. I was a bit confused too hearing John India being in trade talks because from the outside looking in, if you ask me about the Reds or like who is the leader of the Reds, yeah, you have Joey Votto. But for the as far as like the new school, the new Cincinnati Reds, I would look at India as the guy, as the face. You do have your Ellie De Cruz.
Right.
He probably more so will be the face because his
Mm-hmm.
game is so exciting. But for as far as the Reds clubhouse, I just always thought India would be the guy that you look for as like the team captain.
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Like I said, I could see where they were wanting, because there's guys coming up that could like possibly take his place and everything. But at the same time, he is that leader of that clubhouse, and everybody's looking up to him. And if you trade your captain away, what is that going to do to team chemistry for the rest of the season? Like
And
if
not
they
only
would have
that,
traded him
I,
for Lance Lynn, yeah, go ahead.
no, sorry, but not only that, like contracts. What did that say about, when it's time to do contract talks? That where's the loyalty? You look, like I said, you see a guy like India, you kind of look at him as the captain of this team, and if you just ship him off for, if you shipped off India for Lance Lynn, then that would be a problem because
Yeah,
you don't ship off a caliber player for a guy that's maybe a season or two out the league. I don't think that would have worked out, but
yeah,
it, it, it
I, I don't think so either because like India's got like 4 or 5 years left of team control, and you're going to ship him off, your team captain off for a guy who's just going to be there for the rest of the season and who's like on the back end of his career. That wouldn't have been a good look for the Reds, definitely. And like you said, when the contracts come up and the loyalty, like where is the loyalty? It's not here.
yeah.
So, moving on now. So we'll talk a little trade deadline here. Big news there. Max Scherzer is traded to the Texas Rangers.
Oh
How
yeah.
did you feel about that trade?
Man, I will speak for all of Ranger Nation. We were ready to throw a parade. Um, we I would say the Rangers have surprised many people with our pitching staff because if you told me Evaldi would have been an all-star this year, I probably would have looked at you crazy. Because I mean, yeah, he has had very serviceable years, but I mean, he has been playing lights out this season. I think he's dealing with a bit of a arm soreness right now, so we're kind of giving him a little bit of a break. But bringing in Mad Max, I mean, that's a guy that you bring in and you know that not only will he be serviceable, but he can at least in those playoff series, you're hoping that he can, uh, you know, keep guys off base. Because his strikeouts are pretty good. I think he had 9 strikeouts yesterday, even after the whole first inning meltdown, which did have us a little nervous. I would say, seeing him have the bases loaded and them, bringing in 3 runs that first inning. But it's very exciting right now for the Rangers. I think seeing them. I was at the game when they lost their 100, when they had their 100 loss, and I would say it was very, very depressing because they basically have to do dollar hot dog night every day to sell tickets because nobody wants to watch those guys play. But
That
now it's a very exciting time in Texas for baseball.
that sounds like the Cincinnati Reds the last few years. Dollar hot dog nights from August to the end of the season just to get some people in there. It's pretty
Yeah.
sad, but this year I don't think either one of those teams will be having dollar hot dog nights at the end of the year.
No, no.
And back to Mad Max there. You mentioned Mad Max, the nickname there. He's one of my favorite pitchers to watch because he's so emotional on the mound. The video of him where he is looking and he is just cussing out the batter when he's getting ready to throw it. Have you seen that video?
Yes, I have. I mean,
Oh my god!
that's what I love it, man. That is the attitude you want from your guy. He's not necessarily the ace anymore, I say, but that is the
Right?
attitude from the guy in the team that you have faith in, that you're throwing
Yes.
out there.
Ever since I've seen that, I was like, all right, there's 2 things I know about this guy right here. I would want him on my team, and I would not mess with him if I was a batter. If he threw in on me, because that guy is crazy, and you don't go
Yeah,
after crazy. Oh
yeah,
man,
Max is definitely a character. I mean, you know, seeing him with the Mets, the last few seasons, the Mets kind of just, I don't know what it is. They're kind of. if it's a curse or somebody put some voodoo or something on the Mets. They just cannot figure it out. They spent so much money and they
Yeah,
just can't figure it out. And I think this is a seeing. I think Max is a bit relieved now, knowing he doesn't have to deal with that New York media because I'm sure that's very annoying day in and day out. You're in the tabloids about something.
yeah,
Texas media is a bit more relaxed. Texas, it's a more relaxed state as far as the media coming after you. So I
right.
think this change of scenery will help our Max a lot for at least for next year. I think he has 1 year left on his deal, so we'll have him next year. So I think this will help at least revive the last few years for him.
Yeah. Uh, the Mets also traded their other pitcher, Justin Verlander, back to the Astros, who he
Oh
had
man.
just left to go sign to the Mets, and he's back in Houston. So they both go to they go both go to the state of Texas from the Mets.
I'll be honest. I was sick to my seeing that the Mets shipped him back to Houston. I mean, out of all teams, Houston, that's who you called up to trade the
Yep.
Houston Astros. Like, come on, you can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. He just boosts that Astros rotation a little bit. He's a little bit older. Scherzer's older too, but these guys have still got something left.
Yeah,
So they done that to try to get the playoff push. Former Red Michael Lorenzen shipped off to the Phillies. That's
yeah. Did he also play yesterday? If I'm correct.
yeah, I believe so. He made the All Star game this year, and I'm thinking his record was like I think he had a losing record making the All Star game this year.
Yeah, the All Star game was a bit tricky, seeing that a lot of people a lot of pitchers have sat out, so you kind of had to
Yeah,
deal with what you had. But I still think Lorenzen, for what it is, he's still a very good pitcher for what it is, that record.
I was always a Michael Lorenzen fan when he played here. He was a decent. He started out as a starter, and then they moved him to the bullpen, and then they moved him back to a starter, and then they played him in right field some because he could hit. He definitely wasn't Shohei, but he still had a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
Uh,
Um,
I'm happy that the Phillies made a push. I didn't. I was surprised that they made a push, but Lorenzen should give them that extra arm that they need to try to get over the hump.
yeah. Um, the Orioles traded for Jack Flaherty from the Cardinals. That's probably one of the other biggest, an arm there. Of course, the Cardinals wasn't going to make an in division trade with the Reds. There's just that hatred there between the teams, and they wasn't going to help them out for the playoff push. So that was another option, but didn't come through.
Yeah, the thing with
The
Flair is he got to stay healthy. He's a great pitcher when he can be on the field, but he got to stay on the field. The best thing to do is be available, and he gotta. That's one thing he needs to make sure.
yeah, all right. We're going to switch topics here, and we're going to hop off of baseball there for the week, and we're going to go to the NFL. So first off, the biggest news I believe for the NFL for the past week was, aside from Joe Burrow not being seriously injured, of course, that's the homer pick in me.
Yeah.
Uh, well, who's your NFL team? I ask.
Uh, I am a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Ah, the Cowboys. All right,
Yeah. Don't
America's
bash
team.
don't bash too much. I'm kind of just homegrown. It was my whole
Hey,
family Cowboys, so it's kind of
nothing
just in the
wrong with that. If you're a homegrown fan, that there ain't no problem with that at all. The Cowboys are in your backyard there. You're a Rangers fan, so I mean it makes sense. That's what when I asked, I kind of figured where you was going there, but
yeah.
uh, So what I think the biggest news was from the past week was Jonathan Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts
Oh,
requesting a trade, and immediately afterwards, Jim Irsay saying he ain't going nowhere. Basically,
yeah.
what were your thoughts on that?
It is that's almost probably one of the most toxic situations going right now in the NFL because not only is Jonathan Taylor, yeah, he had a down year last year, but as a whole, the Colts was just terrible. But
Mhm.
this whole thing with the running backs not getting paid or not getting a true value, I think it should be case by case because yeah, you see a running back like Dallas had with Zeke, he was only getting 3 yards per carry. So obviously, yeah, you can't be paying a guy like that 15 million. But
No.
Jonathan Taylor, the year before last, had 1,800 yards.
Yep.
Like you can't, yeah, you know that type of production is not going to necessarily happen every year. Definitely a running back when you're always running them into the ground each season. But when that's kind of your offense, and definitely with a rookie quarterback with Richardson, who's going to need to hand the ball off, you can't throw the ball with Richardson, I think, 30 times a game. It's just not going to work out. You need to run, you need a guy like Taylor who can run the ball 20, 25 times and keep the chains moving.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a bit of a slap to the face when your owner is basically saying, no, we wouldn't even trade you, but at the same time, we're not going to give you a contract that shows your true value. It's kind of a smack to the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Well, I mean, like you said, Anthony Richardson's going to be starting, quarterback. I watched Anthony Richardson in college at Florida, and because I'm a UK football fan, right?
Hmm.
And I saw him play, and I didn't see, I saw the potential, but I didn't see him, you know, I saw the raw potential, but I didn't see him as a top five quarterback pick, top five draft pick. So the first few years, if they're going to develop him, he's going to have a good running game behind him. And Jonathan
Yeah.
Taylor is one of the best you could have. But you make your running back mad like that, and it's like, okay, so the Colts are going to, kind of, fold it in for the season already before it gets started. Your owner's saying, because if
Yeah.
your guy's not happy, he's not going to play anyways. And then what do you do? Who is the backup Colts running back? I,
Not only that, I mean, you look at the receivers. Yeah, Pittman is your number one, but
uh,
is he really like a number one? I think Pittman's his ceiling is a great number two receiver.
yeah,
So you're already basically handcuffing your quarterback, your rookie quarterback, with not having his best talent surrounding him.
yeah,
It's a terrible situation.
right. Yeah. So I don't know how that's going to resolve. They put him on the pub list, I believe. You know, for now. But yeah, it's going to get ugly before it gets better because the owner of the Colts, he's pretty hard headed on stuff. So I don't see him, backtracking any way on that.
Yeah, I mean, you go up to the media and say what you said. I forgot exactly how the quote was, but it's like if I'm gone and Jonathan Taylor's gone, like no, the NFL basically wouldn't will keep on moving. Like it's
Yeah.
true, that is
Right.
very much true, but you don't tell your young running back like Taylor is not in his 30s. Like you don't
Right.
tell your young running back that when this nobody's gonna ever remember you like that. It's not what you do
And,
to your
and what's that say about the rest of the players on that team? Oh, well, he thinks that about him. He's not going to back him, our best player.
yeah.
He's definitely not going to back me or any of the other guys on the roster.
Yeah,
And like you said, that just, yeah,
if I was a third string tight end, I would my feelings would be hurt. Because what are you
Yeah.
saying? Are you saying I don't matter? I'm fighting for my life to make this team. You're saying that in 2 years nobody's going to care about me? Like, come on.
Yeah, and they feel like there's a big free agent signing, like, hey, the Colts are interested. Yeah, well, I'm not interested in the Colts, because they're really not going to be interested in me because he's already said that. Oh
Yeah.
man. So I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Former Cincinnati Bengal. I thought this was kind of interesting. Former Cincinnati Bengal Eli Apple signs with the Miami Dolphins, making him teammates with the cheetah Tyreek Hill. Those two
Yes.
have some sort of a little bit of a rivalry. So I would love to see what those practices have been like. They're not going to, I think Tyreek even said something about he couldn't wait till Monday after Eli signed.
Yeah, that was because Ramsey's going to be out for about what 2 months, right? Is that what
I
the news
believe
was?
I believe they said early December is what they're saying now.
Man, that is yeah, that's a shot. I mean, having to sub out Ramsey for Eli Apple, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, that is not great. But that is pretty interesting seeing Tyreek Hill and Eli Apple as teammates. I mean, the trash talk those two guys had was, took over social media. I mean, everybody was invested in that. But I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
they were able to put water under the bridge and, try to make each other better.
Yeah, and if not, they're going to make it that way out in public. They're not going to trash each other now in public. Uh, Other than the little Tyreek tweet, which I thought was just hilarious. Welcome him in, my new teammate here. I can't wait till Monday.
I bet I bet those practices probably have been very tough for Eli because I mean Tyreek Hill, like, it's already people already lose sleep about having to see him on Sunday. Like now
Mm-hmm.
you have to basically see him every single day. Oh man, that is not something I would sign up for at all.
No, and especially Eli Apple's probably thinking, well, I don't. Eli Apple, he's kind of a different guy anyway. But I'm saying he's probably, if he was a normal kind of thinking guy, he would probably be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to go to Miami. I might sign somewhere else. Is Carolina available? Could I go sign there or something? Uh,
Yeah, Tyreek
so
Hill, I would be trying to look and try to see if I could swap sides every time Tyreek Hill came out the huddle.
yeah, can I get some help over top? Like, can we get like a couple of safeties over here, please?
Coach, let's not do a blitz at all. Let's not do man. Let's do some zone today.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so last night the NFL got started with the season. The Hall of Fame game. The Browns took down the Jets. How much did you watch any of this game last night?
So I watched the first half, and then I realized these are basically glorified XFL players on the field. So I kind of, I turned it off after a while. But from what I did see, man, Zach Wilson, I mean, it is not looking good for him. You're playing, like I said, you're basically playing against XFL guys. A lot of those guys are not going to make the NFL roster that played yesterday or last night,
Right.
and he still struggled. I feel like yeah, he wasn't going to put up 300 yards in just a quarter or a first half, but you got to simply just move the chains. When it's 3rd and 5, you can't be slipping outside of the pocket. You kind of need to show your coach, who basically, after a year, brought in Aaron Rodgers because he just couldn't deal with your play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you have guys like Sauce Gardner, who basically was doing a presidential candidate run for to get Aaron Rodgers onto their team. Like
Yep.
that was a bit. I feel probably the worst thing of the night scene because everybody had their own reasons to watch the Hall of Fame game, but my main reason was to see how Zach Wilson responded to Aaron Rodgers, basically giving him the boot and taking the starting spot. But he didn't show that he was even close to maybe taking back the job once Rodgers done.
Yeah, I didn't watch very much of it. I turned it over and I watched a little bit of it. I was watching the Reds and the Cubs, you know. But
Yeah,
I'm excited that NFL is back, and but then you start watching it and you're like, this is I'm excited that it's here, but it's not what I'm wanting. It's like you said, it's like watching the XFL back in May. It's football, it's there, but it's not the same.
yeah.
But the Zach Wilson thing, he is number 2 overall pick. Is that one of the worst draft classes? I mean, overall, like if you
Well,
know,
I'm gonna be a little bit biased because we got Michael Parsons, if I remember correctly. We got Michael Parsons that draft, so
well, I mean, like quarterback wise,
quarterback definitely, yeah, because
you had Trevor Lawrence one, which okay, he's
yeah,
moving up to it,
people knew he was gonna be the guy since high school.
yeah. And then Wilson was 2, and was Trey Lance number 3?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember. Yeah, I think he they was going back and forth. Yeah, they chose Trey Lance at 3.
Yeah, and he's so far he's been injury prone, and he was injury prone in college. And Wilson, he just hasn't been able to prove it. And then I think Justin Fields was in that class, and he's the jury's still out on him.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
Running
would say
quarterback,
I would definitely be more happy with Justin Fields and his at least play style that he's able to at least play his game to his best ability. He runs the
yeah,
ball like that's what Justin Fields is going to have to do to be successful. Zach
right,
Wilson don't have that skill or that skill
no,
set. He's a he was the strong arm quarterback that could throw off his back foot or throw in weird angles, and that just
yeah,
hasn't translated to to the next level.
and I don't think it's going to either. I think that he's probably just going to be a backup somewhere, and I don't think it's going to be with the Jets because he may be requesting a trade for long because he's not going to overthrow Rodgers the next couple of years because
Yeah,
he's
uh,
quarterback. That's his team now.
yeah, that's pretty embarrassing for how old is Rodgers? 38, 39. It's pretty embarrassing for a guy that is and Rodgers is still great. I'm not saying that Rodgers is out of his prime, but for a front office to be like, yeah, I'd rather choose the guy pushing 40 instead of this young guy that we just drafted, number 2 overall. That says a lot. That says a
Yeah,
lot.
you've got to. If you're Wilson, you got to take a look in the mirror and you got to be like, I may need to, try something different here. I may need to work at something because this old guy's coming in from out of town, and he's kicking me out of town. And if I'm going to stay in this league, I've got to change some things up.
Yeah, I think
Definitely.
if I remember correctly, last year he was also talking about they was talking about he wasn't like as good of a locker room guy. Like he was a bit standoffish,
Yeah.
which Justin, if I remember correctly, Justin Herbert kind of also has that to himself personality, but like
Hmm.
the Chargers still love that. Like they love their quarterback. The
Yeah.
Jets did not show that they love their quarterback. It seemed like they were pretty much done with him by the time it was week 6. I mean, I think people was begging for I don't want to mess his name. Zach White, was he the quarterback for the Jets last year? That was in
Mike.
some play. Mike
Mike.
White, yes, Mike
Yeah.
White. People were basically was begging for him to get playing time. It's like this guy,
Yeah.
you drafted this guy at the number 2 overall, and you're telling me the fan base is begging for Mike White?
The 7th round or undrafted. I'm not sure. Whatever he was, Mike White from Western Kentucky. You want him to come in and take over for the number 2 overall pick? That says a whole lot about Zach Wilson. And wasn't there a story last year that come out before the season about Zach Wilson where he like slept with his best friend's mother or something like that, like a Stifler's mom situation with Zach Wilson or something like that? And they
Yeah,
were
people.
like,
I think
"Hide your
people
mom."
like people was kind of siding with Zach Wilson after that story came out. Like, okay, he's a dog. Like this guy
Yeah,
can get after it. But oh man, no. It turns
yeah,
out he might sleep with your mom's best friend, but he is not the best teammate.
yeah. That dog doesn't translate to the football field. It's
Yeah.
it's off the field where he's the dog. Oh man. Man, Gene? Do you have any other topics or anything you'd like to discuss, or anything you'd want to say or anything on here?
Um, I'll leave this as my last thing that it's kind of a bit of my worst thing. Um, the whole because people, like you said, everybody's just so happy with training camp and preseason starting. Can we relax on Dak Prescott interceptions? I understand it is not the best to see your guy throw interceptions in practice, in the game, wherever it is. But it's training camp. Can we relax on that? Like I've been seeing a lot of people on Twitter, definitely Philadelphia Eagles fans just bashing Dak about interceptions in training camp. Like it's come on, like this practice. This is where you're supposed to get better.
Yeah, there's plenty of time before season gets started for that. And I mean, is that saying anything bad about Dak, or is that saying anything good about your defensive backs that are getting those in practice? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's another thing. Like you said, I mean, the Dallas had at least in the past 2 years, definitely under Dan Quinn, they've had the best turnover defense, or at least one of the top five turnover defense in the past 2 years. So, bringing Gilmore and Diggs, who had 14 picks for career high, yeah, you're gonna throw picks in practice.
Yeah, and Trayvon Diggs. I mean, that guy's gonna get his hands on the ball. He's gonna intercept one, or he's gonna get beat sometime. He's one of those
Yeah,
feast or famine guys, right? From what
yeah.
I
I mean, you're gonna have to watch Diggs get burnt a few times and have to live with it.
But yeah, because he makes up for it with his picks that he gets. Because he comes out there and he makes a pick, but he may get beat the play before. But the next play, he's going to get that pick, and you're getting the ball back. Kind of what you have to do with Diggs there. All
Yeah.
right, man. Uh, Thanks for joining me this week. I appreciate it. Had fun conversation here with you.
Thank you
And
for having me. This has been a great time. I had a great time.
all right, man. Well, thanks, and thanks everybody for checking it out. And see you next week. Later.